We have all been there. You spend dozens of hours investing in a story, falling in love with the characters, and clicking next episode late into the night. Then, right at the climax of the story, a black screen. No resolution, no answers. We can map out exactly how this happens to most television shows. Usually, the life cycle starts with a bright green light. This is the breakout hit phase. Viewership explodes, social media's buzzing, and the network immediately orders more episodes. But eventually, almost every show enters the yellow zone. The audience naturally plateaus, the novelty wears off, and executives start looking at the budget with a bit more hesitation. Then, without warning, the production slams into red. The show is abruptly canceled, leaving the writers with half-finished scripts and the audience with a story that will never be complete. This recurring cycle has trained audiences to be wary. We hesitate to start a new series because we fear the story will crash into a wall rather than land safely on a runway. But one series managed to recognize this trap and steer away from the crash. That show is The Night Agent, starring Gabriel Basso. When its first season dropped in early 2023, it hit that green light phase hard. It racked up over 800 million viewing hours in its first half year, becoming the most-watched series globally on the platform. As the show moved through production for its second and third seasons, the numbers did what they naturally do. They settled into that familiar yellow plateau. Here is where the story diverges. Instead of waiting for the inevitable axe to fall, the creators are intentionally hitting a planned red light. They announce that Season 4 will be their last. Choosing to end a successful show on purpose is a decisive win for the people making it. Stepping away from the table while you still hold the chips preserves the story's reputation before it can be cut short. To understand why, we have to look at the person running the operation, series creator Shawn Ryan. When Ryan first pitched the series, he set a strict creative rule. Each season had to tell a complete, self-enclosed story. He wanted a definitive beginning, middle, and end, ensuring the audience always felt satisfied. He also recognized a practical problem with his own premise. If a secret agent keeps uncovering massive government conspiracies year after year, their face ends up all over the global news. At a certain point, the idea of them staying undercover becomes entirely unbelievable. This diagram illustrates the rare agreement Ryan struck with Netflix and Sony Pictures Television. Instead of squeezing out endless seasons until the concept broke, they greenlit Season 4 with the explicit purpose of wrapping the narrative up. Setting a predetermined finish line protects the narrative. It means the story dictates the runtime, rather than letting the runtime dilute the story. Executing that final act depends on hard business logistics as much as a strong script. The production team is currently navigating a significant logistical shift to prepare for the end. This New York City skyline is just one of the locations the production has utilized so far. Over 3 seasons, the crew has bounced around the globe, shooting in Washington, D.C., Bangkok, and the Dominican Republic. But for the finale, they are packing up and relocating everything to Los Angeles. Moving a global production across the country is incredibly expensive, but Sony Pictures Television made a highly calculated financial play. They secured a California state tax credit to offset the costs of shooting in Hollywood. That tax credit is worth $31.6 million. For the viewer at home, that corporate math translates directly into entertainment value. Saving millions on taxes frees up the resources required for stunt coordination, practical effects, and the kind of high-stakes action sequences a proper finale demands. With the budget and location secured, the focus shifts to the personnel roster. The finale roster puts Gabriel Basso front and center to finish Peter Sutherland's arc. Branching out, veteran talent like Titus Welliver and Trevante Rhodes joined to elevate the final missions. But fans noticed one glaring question. Where is Rose Larkin? Rose was completely absent from Season 3, causing plenty of anxiety online. However, Shawn Ryan has publicly stated he hopes the logistics work out to bring her back, leaving the door wide open for her to return and properly close out her story alongside Peter. Building a roster with heavy-hitting newcomers while honoring core relationships from day one shows a production team focused entirely on satisfying their audience. When you look at the board, the strategy becomes clear. A creator with strict narrative control, a $31.6 million financial boost, and a stacked cast in LA. All of those separate logistical and creative efforts are funneling directly into one singular goal: They are hitting the brakes to give the audience a closed loop. No cliffhangers, no unresolved mysteries. It is the exact opposite of the sudden, destructive cancellations that plague so many of our favorite stories today. In an era where hitting play on a new show feels like a gamble, a production taking a deliberate, planned red light isn't a cancellation. It's the ultimate reward for your time.